Mm, you're recording me. Recording in oh, is this you're recording the
Here
meeting?
we're on. We're on the
All
air.
right.
This is Jesse back on the Transformation Podcast. I've got Matt Kealey here. Matt, say hello.
How's it going? My name is Matt.
Glad that you could make it on.
Uh,
Thank you for making it on. How was your day today?
It was good. So I work at Cisco, the food distribution company, and we had a little kind of like employee competition, appreciation, family like rodeo powwow type thing, and it was really good. We had a good turnout, a lot of families, a lot of kids. We actually, I think, we had I think 100 more people than we did last year. I think it's right around 300 total between like kind of employees and obviously family members and loved ones. Got to have my wife show up and bring our little 6 month old there so that way you could meet everybody and they could all meet her and everything. So it was good. And the weather held off at least, pretty decent until it was over with. And as I was driving home that all of a sudden like the rain just started fucking flying down. Um and there's the point where there's times where driving you could barely even see.
The one up above was watching out for you guys, so you didn't get
Yeah.
rained on. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So the way that Matt and I met is we've known each other since high school. Friend of a friend. We never went to the same high school,
Nope. Blaine
and
High School.
yep.
You were SLP, right?
Yeah, Spring Lake Park, correct. And we just kind of connected through there and video games along the way. Sea of Thieves,
Sea
Call of Duty
Thieves.
World at War.
Oh God. Yeah, wah.
One
Wah.
one thing that you and I think have recently really bonded on is vaccines
Yep.
and the current
Yep.
state of the world and the wake up call that we all had in 2020. Uh, Now, when you were in the Marines,
Yep.
you're a veteran, and when you go into the military, you take all sorts of vaccines, anything and everything, and it's experimental. Am I right?
Pretty much. And I mean, it's hard to say because like it's all technically, I believe, it be in my military medical file, everything that they gave me, but at the same time, I'm almost certain like they very well know most Marines and most military members don't even ever look at their medical files. And who's to say? Like that's the thing. So to picture it as best as possible, at least I know for the Marine Corps when I went through boot camp, and I know for a lot of guys who had experiences with the Army and National Guard, when you get to boot camp, and I think it's like when you initially get to boot camp, and it's even like halfway through boot camp, I think you get like another second round, like right at the end of boot camp, you get like another round of vaccines or shots or whatever it is. And it's hard to know exactly what all they were. I'm guessing they probably gave us a flu shot, a tetanus shot, and then I know for sure we got a penicillin shot as long as you weren't allergic. It's like you're going down an assembly line. You got nurses on each side of you, and you like they're basically all right. Next, you step forward, you get a shot in each arm, and then you step forward one more time, you get a shot in each arm. I think you step forward and you get one more shot in the arm, and then you step all the way up to go and basically put your hands on this wall or pull your pants down just enough so your top of your butt cheeks hanging out, and you put your hands on the wall to get the peanut butter shot, which is the penicillin shot. And it feels like you're just getting peanut butter shoved up into you, and it's basically just an antibiotic. And it's like, but for what? For
Yeah,
what?
right.
It's because, oh well, you're being exposed, you're at a higher risk of being exposed to, because you're with all these other people from around the country, and now you're exposed because you're going to be dirty and all this stuff all the time. I was doing that when I was a kid. So like it makes me think, like, what do they just take it as an opportunity to give shots that are necessary to where then like the government and these companies are just in a coup together to make money? Because I definitely attest. I deal with a lot of health issues ever since I got out of the Marine Corps. I mean, I deal with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, compulsive depression disorder, generalized anxiety disorder with panic attacks, irritable bowel syndrome, like you name it. I mean, I still live and I survive, but life is definitely not the same of when before I came in or went in, and where I was like felt, I guess what you would not say is like pretty much you felt like you're just normal. I went through a lot of a lot of hard times of trying to figure out what exactly was wrong with me.
And these were all things that you didn't currently deal with.
No,
And or I mean
or like I
previously.
didn't. Yeah,
You
yeah.
didn't previously deal with it.
No.
So I have two points or statements slash questions about that. Is one, imagine unloading all of those different viruses, bacterias, heavy metals into each one of your new onboarding employees that are going to fight for your country. All of that at once onto the system. It's really has to shock the system. Were you sick after that at all? Do you ever remember being sick? Or, I suppose it's everything that's happening when you're first getting to boot camp, I'm sure, is just a total adrenaline rush.
It's
So
like it's go 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 go
yeah,
go go.
right. So you probably didn't even have time for you to realize maybe how you felt. But I think the second question slash statement I want to make is, in the Civil War, for instance, those troops, 2/3 of them died from diseases, not from battle. And
Mm.
I think maybe a point that the U.S. military would make is they would look that back on that and use as precedent. But I think something that we don't account for today is these people never washed their hands,
Yep.
and I'm willing to guess that plumbing wasn't as good. You're probably on around a lot more waste, and hygiene wasn't a point. And on top of that, there's the money that goes into it from the pharmaceutical companies in the US,
Yep.
and that's something that we can talk about. But in the Civil War specifically, just thinking that 2/3 of the troops died from disease, not battle, is a pretty overwhelming statistic.
Yeah.
You imagine being, because you were deployed, eh,
Yep.
being in the 1800s barracks compared to what they were.
Be totally different.
Yeah, it totally would. Right.
Um, it's a good question for the first one, especially because now, like, I've never, I guess, I haven't asked it, and I never really actually looked at it that way. Because it makes me think. Because so when I was in boot camp, I did get pneumonia, and I just thought it was because I mean it's hard to say. I mean I think it'd still be kind of a mixture because it's a mixture of getting all those shots probably. So you can't pinpoint, hey, it was because of them. Like that's it's could they have been a part of it? Yeah, but then also you think about it, you're putting yourself through a process of where you're getting, maybe 6 7 hours of sleep, which isn't like bad. Like most people are like, well, I can live off that. Yeah, yeah, you can, but at the same time, you're on your feet all day. You're not doing anything. Like the only time you're not on your feet is when you're eating chow, which is maybe for a minute or 2 minutes at most. And if you're in like a classroom and that's it. On that, you're on your feet marching everywhere. You're doing PT, you're doing drill where you're handling your rifle. Like you're never not doing something. So your body is completely fatigued and exhausted. So if you take that and then the vaccines, your immune system doesn't exist basically. It's not even there. So that's why like it could really open the door. And that's where like the number one thing that most guys would usually get sick with in boot camp was pneumonia. Pneumonia, and like it's this really doesn't have to do with like your immune system or not, but just because of how dirty, like how sweaty and dirty and dirt and everything gets around. Your pink eye was very common just because how much dirt you're around and you're cleaning your rifle and then you accidentally rub some CLP in your eye or something. I was a victim of that. So, but I definitely do. Uh, like that's the thing is they can try to argue, hey, because of the Civil War, there's so many deaths from stuff like that. But that wasn't even just the Civil War. That was just that was a thing for the United States in general. how many people would die from infection or bacterial infections and stuff like that, and or like you want to say whooping cough and all that. And it wasn't because, and this is where, I know we had a good talk about it before, is, and if anybody's never read the book called um what is it, Dissolving Mysteries, or I forget what, it's something like that. I'll look it up real quick, but it's one of my favorite
The one by
books.
Suzanne Humphreys.
Yep, yep. And I know we were talking about it, and she was on Joe Rogan podcast, and she talks really well. She's a brilliant woman, and anybody who wants to, like, if you shut her down, if you're someone who's like, oh, well, she's a kook or blah blah blah, I almost guarantee you have not given her the day of light to actually listen to her. You basically staple her with that label, and you don't even give her the light of day to listen to what she talks about. Because if you actually listen to what she talks about, she's extremely brilliant, extremely intelligent, and gives you all of the like facts and details of why she has come to the conclusion that she has come to the conclusion of with vaccines, and how she can basically prove that there might there she will still give the thought of there might be small benefits of vaccines here and there and to a certain degree, but it's not at the level of which what we've been led to, like what we've been made to believe from mainstream media, from the government, and so forth, and even our pharmaceutical businesses. Most of our deadly diseases, scarlet fever, whooping cough, measles, polio, tetanus, all these things, the death rates plummeted well before the vaccines ever came out. It was well before. It was in I think it was like around the late 30s, early 40s, 50s. What was the big change in that time frame? Well, the big change was cleanliness. It was plumbing. It was housing. It was nutrition. Like, it was where it became a big part of America was people living in homes, like homes and in neighborhoods where they had proper plumbing, proper sewage for the most part. There wasn't garbage and trash on the ground. They had ways to clean themselves easily with water. It wasn't them taking, like, everyone sharing this bathtub and then they're getting in and out of it, taking turns. Um, and they had water to clean their dishes and everything like that. They're not cleaning all their dishes in the same tub and stuff like that. So I think that there's a lot of playing parts that caused, like, especially the 2/3 of deaths in the Civil War was, you think about it, most of those because you think about it, especially even in the terms of like in Afghanistan in modern day uh, combat zones, even though it was here in the US, you have to think about anytime there is a battle or a field of battle, that's a combat zone. All right. Well, the front uh, uh, position, the front compound, the front camp, wherever maybe the doctors and whoever it was working on injured soldiers was as close as possible to where they were also out of danger, but close as possible for people to get to. They weren't in cities, they weren't in big towns, they weren't in places where they had easy access to consistent cleanly saws or bandages or medications or anything. They were used, like, they would literally saw someone's leg off because that's what they had to do. They had to amputate it, either because it was going to get infected or because obviously it had lead in their leg from the wound, or they had to amputate it just because they couldn't heal, they couldn't stop the bleeding or something. Well, they would literally go from one to the next to the next to the next a lot of times if they had to.
Using the same
So
saw.
using the same saw at that point, yeah, that's you're asking for disease and death from infection at that point. It's going to happen, and it's not anything it's not prominent in any way in our society anymore.
No, if people keep themselves clean and keep themselves healthy, exercise, do all the right things, there's more information now about the best kind of water you can drink, the best kind of
Yep.
supplements you can take, the best kind of exercise routine you can do depending on whatever your situation is. Over taking vaccines and or needing vaccines, and then also
Yep.
staying off of SSRIs and every other kind of anti-depression or anti-anxiety med that there is on the market. It's just one big money
Yep.
grab. It's 100%
Yeah.
one big money grab. Have you heard, the vaccine company in in Europe, AstraZeneca. Have you heard
It does sound
that
familiar.
company? I think they were actually the ones that had the most. Well, who really knows who has the most deaths for the COVID shot?
Yeah.
I think the Pfizer files said like 640,000 people so far. I just
Yeah.
recently read
It's definitely way worse than what they're willing to put out there.
that's a lot of people.
It
How many
is.
people? How many people were in
It's
the
more people.
Holocaust? What was the number in the Holocaust? Three
Um,
million?
something like that. Well, like it's hard to say. I mean, there's different numbers from different people.
Yeah.
But like the thing is too, how many people actually? So let's say that word actually died from COVID in the U.S. There's probably more.
Actually, right.
There's more people who probably died from the COVID shot than actually died from COVID. Like
Yeah.
getting in a car accident and having COVID in your bloodstream doesn't count as dying from COVID.
The number's still
You know?
going up. It's not stopping, and it's only
Oh,
going to get faster over the next few years. And this
because
isn't a time for any of us to that didn't take the shot to wave the
no,
victory flag, even though that we were told that we were idiots.
because I think they're still recommending the shot to the average adult. Like I think they took it off the recommended list for I think kids, and was it kids and was it anybody else?
I think it was just kids.
Just kids and pregnant women. I think it was
Oh,
pregnant women. That's what it was.
it should have never been on the
It
list
should
of
have never
pregnant
been.
women in the
No,
first place.
if you
Nothing
ask
should be
me,
on the list for
nothing.
pregnant women,
No, nothing should be. I just
let
like
alone the COVID shot.
yeah, like you have to think about anything that goes into that mother's bloodstream. It has the almost guarantee likelihood it's going to end up going to that fetus. So you're the last thing you ever want to put in there is anything that's going to cause a reaction or have any sort of metals or any sort of chemicals that are not safe, and then also at the same time cause a spike protein reaction.
And then the second shot that doesn't get talked about enough is in my eyes is the pneumococcal shot vaccine, which is for pneumonia. It's
Oh,
part
really?
of it's part of the 72 schedule shots for little kids. I have a list here of
Isn't
what
that
used to be
crazy?
called
72
72 before the age of 5,
before the age of 5, 72 shots. What was it back in 1970? Like 18.
something like that. Yeah. And then
And then autism rates started skyrocketing after that
what is it now? Is it one in every 10,000?
for autism.
Yeah.
I think it's actually higher than that, but
Well, you look that up. Let me
oh,
give you the list of this new pneumococcal shot,
yep.
which is for pneumonia. They give it to babies, and they get like 3 rounds in the span of a year and a half. So aluminum, there's an aluminum load in the shot. So PCV vaccines contain aluminum salts as adjuvants used to stimulate an immune response. Infants receive multiple aluminum containing vaccines in the first year of life, potentially exceeding the safety limits based on the body weight. So the ratio to body weight's over 10% of aluminum for
Well,
for that little baby.
yep. And well, and too, there's been a lot of studies done too that a lot of these vaccines vary in the amount of aluminum or mercury that's actually in there based on what the insert states is supposed to be in there.
Yeah, who's to know who by the way is regulating or fact checking what is on the inserts?
Yep.
It's probably the same person that's making it.
Making it. Yep.
And they don't have any accountability as far as the law goes. There's
Uh,
nothing in the law that says that you can sue these companies
no.
for giving you these vaccines.
One, if anything, I think though the insert, the only reason that they have inserts is because it's a protection.
Correct. Yep.
That's it.
Number two, no long-term safety testing. So I I don't know as much about pneumonia as I do a little bit about the flu. How the flu comes back a different strain every year is the same thing for COVID too, where you're getting the vaccine for the previous strain as you continue to boost.
Yep.
I don't know if that's the same case for pneumonia, but here it says here no long-term safety testing. So meaning it doesn't have any kind of long-term this vaccine is only going to also help you in the short term as well. So Like many childhood vaccines, it's aluminum based, based on short-term antibody response, not for the long term. Critics argue that there have been no large-scale double-blind placebo tests
Yep.
comparing vaccinated versus unvaccinated children. So again, pneumonia is scary, and any good parent that really cares about their kids, if the doctor says, "Hey, take this," they're going to take it
They're gonna
because
take it.
the doctor told me to, and there's nothing. I don't have anything negative to say about those people. I only hope that they're willing to listen to multiple points of view and then maybe
Yeah.
reconsider. And this isn't to make anybody feel ashamed that has given their kids this. The only reason why I'm talking about this publicly is because I care about humanity in general, and
Yeah.
I want to help however I can. And I think this is really important for all of us to critically think. And if you are for vaccines, what all this is going to do is this is going to push these companies to maybe have a higher standard going forward,
Yeah.
a standard where this could actually be healthy for the human body.
Yeah.
And if we can all get on board with that, then where's the argument? I think there's
Yeah.
just like a lack of understanding between us anti-vaxxers, if that's what you want to call us, to people that do believe in doing the 72 shot schedule in 5 years for
Yeah.
a child.
I think one of, I don't know why it just popped in my head. I feel like it sounds good in my head. We'll see how it actually sounds when I say it out loud. So obviously, if vaccines could be safe and effective, like truly safe and effective, I think a lot of people would be very for it. It's basically like taking a vitamin or a
Yeah,
nutrient.
right.
It's like, hey, if you can actually, like, it's like taking zinc. If zinc and take some vitamin D, your immune system is ready to take on almost any viral infection, and then you just supplement it with some little bit of physical activity, not too hard where you're fatiguing yourself. Incorporate some maybe ginger, blueberries, some stuff that has antioxidants, stuff that has antiviral properties like garlic, onions, honey, stuff like that. You can take on anything for the most part. You will be just fine. Um, but in my eyes, it's the same thing as, obviously we need that stuff to be healthy and to take on viruses, right? Our bodies, what do our bodies survive off of? Number one, first before anything, before food, it's water.
Water.
Okay. Well, in order to be healthy with water, we have to drink quality water, right?
Yes.
Do you think most Americans would be okay with drinking water that has lead in it because it's safe within the limits of what's being given to you? I don't think so. I think most people are like, no, I think we'd rather have no lead in there if we can, so then that way we can have clean water and that way we can be as healthy as possible.
And no fluoride either.
No,
And
yeah.
after I get done with these last 2 points, we should go into water
You go
also.
into that.
Yeah, and I also want to talk about the difference between purified water, reverse osmosis water, and
Yeah.
natural spring water as well.
Yeah.
There's another big misconception there too. Great call out. We'll get to that. Actually, this is my last one. So the vaccine adverse event reporting system
Yep.
contains thousands of reports of side effects for these post PCV vaccines, including high fevers, seizures, lethargy and poor feeding, and developmental regression. Are these things worth it to put into your child's body? Is a seizure worth it?
No, to
That,
me, it's
and these are the decisions we
not.
need to make. And again, there's no shaming people that maybe are thinking that would be worth it,
Oh,
and
like,
go for it.
no,
But
it's
should
not to
know.
shame them, but we want them to know, and then also to know that the reason. So I know, like, we had a good talk on our walk. If mine and my wife's daughter gets whooping cough or measles and ends up passing away from it, obviously I'm going to be devastated. I will be broken, but I'm not going to devastate myself over the fact, because, like, I already know there's going to be people out there who say, try to argue that, oh, it's because she didn't have her vaccine, or it was because of this. And I would argue it's not, because there's no clear evidence that those vaccines are actually effective. There's no double blind studies that have ever been done. So how can you say, you cannot make any statement of any kind that the vaccines are what causes people to be safer for contracting these diseases? And so if that's the case, why am I going to give my daughter them where I'm going to put her at risk of having seizures, SIDS, autism, any sort of that stuff. I will. I'm. If you ask me, that is a higher risk than her contracting these diseases without the vaccine.
Yeah. And you again, you're going with the odds, and I
Yep.
think the odds in this case are in your favor. And
Uh,
you're critically thinking.
yeah, and autism. So children aged of 8 years old as of 2022 is 1 in 31 children.
1 in 31.
And for adults in the U.S., I think this was from the same, I believe, same study of 2022 is it's 1 in 45.
Wow. I feel that number is incredibly serious, and then I also feel like doctors overdiagnose as
They
well. But it still doesn't take away from the
well
fact that
because they keep I feel like too they keep broadening,
yeah,
and I feel like it. And again, we're going down another hole of conspiracy and speculating. I feel like in my eyes, they keep over broadening the term and the disease so then they can find more and more people that they can have the excuse to medicate.
how many people do you see today that say, "Oh, it's my OCD, it's my
Oh,
ADHD"?
at my work,
I can
at
say
my all the
to you
time.
right now that you have OCD because you like to neatly put your books on your shelf behind you in height. That does
Yeah.
that make you OCD, or does that just make you a person that has pride in what
What
they
so
have,
they
cares
look at
about
things visually.
presentation? That doesn't mean you have a disorder. That means you
Yeah.
like the way things look. I think that's like a cop out maybe for
They're like, I
somebody.
have a problem.
I have a problem because I like to have a clean house. That doesn't
No,
That's not what OCD is. If
no.
we're gonna get technical about
You want to
OCD,
get real OCD or people who are like they can't leave the bathroom because they need to wash their hands 3 times.
and then flick the light switch
And the
and
switch, yeah, like that is the real thing. Like,
not color
yeah.
coordinating my closet. Damn it! Let me color coordinate my closet. All right, let's go on to water here since you brought it up. So, you know that Dasani and Aquafina are banned in Europe, right?
I didn't actually know that. No,
Yeah. Ironically, the water that's produced by Pepsi and Coca-Cola
it's not
don't
this
have water
quality.
that is sellable in Europe.
Doesn't surprise me.
When we
Eh,
went on our walk, I was impressed. You had Ice Mountain spring water.
yeah,
Call me the water boy if you'd like. I care about good water as you do, and we talked about
yeah.
hydrogen water. Um, I would say to anybody that's looking to maybe care just a little bit more about what you put in your body when you're at the grocery store, if you do happen to buy bottled water, the best bottled water there is a water called Mountain Valley. It's in a glass bottle. You can get it at Whole Foods. It's
Yeah.
kind of expensive.
I, is that the green one?
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
I have bought that before, and then I made the attempt. Sorry, to go off track. I made the attempt of wanting to try and see if I can get it through Amazon, just because I don't have to keep going to Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And then I got a case of broken bottles.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's too bad.
So, but sorry, go.
Yeah. So again, I don't think that you're going to want to, if you can help it, drink water out of plastic only because of the
No.
microplastics. And if that bottle ever does get warm in the sun, just toss it.
Yep. Yep.
But when you're at the grocery store and you're shopping for water, try to look for water that's spring water rather than purified water. And I got this list in front of me right now, and of what purified water is, and here's what purified water is. Here's the generic term. Generic term for water that's been filtered to remove contaminants. May use carbon filters, distillation, UV light. It meets legal purity standards but doesn't define how it was treated. So the cons of it is it often devoids the water of minerals. So what you'll see
Yep.
with Aquafina or Dasani specifically is they corner the market at places like Valley Fair and Mall of America. So when you're walking around all day and you want to get
That's
water, you
true.
just get purified water. And then you get more and more dehydrated the more you drink because your body is trying to find the minerals in this water.
The
And that's
electrolytes and
what
everything.
hydrates you is the minerals. That's why when they say you should drink electrolytes, if you do like some sea salt or pink Himalayan salt in your water if you want to hydrate yourself quicker, That's how you do it because there's minerals in that water when you add that salt. So when you do this purified water that strips all contaminants, good and bad, from the water, you're essentially drinking it to dehydrate yourself even more. That's why Dasani and Aquafina have like that metallic taste at the end of drinking that water. Now, I will say, like when you go to an off-brand gas station and you get their version of spring water, they for sure just filled that fucker up in the sink. They're you know, so you just want to, if you are wanting to be conscious of buying water at the store, those are the things to look for.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been, no, at least I know I still drink it through the plastic bottle, but I try to make sure anytime I'm drinking water, it's spring water. Like
Yes.
I don't drink water out of our fridge, even with the filter in there. Just because I mean, even after like the one or two times you're using the filter, I mean, it's already, it's a filter. It's going to start getting dirty.
Right.
Um, so now the thing is too, yeah, you want to try to avoid microplastics as much as possible because at the end of the day, no matter how much you try to avoid it, they're gonna be in your bloodstream.
The average,
It's everywhere so much now that
yeah,
you will, no matter how hard you try, you are still going to be exposed to microplastics.
the average American eats a credit card every week.
That's awesome.
And when you eat plastic, it has, for men, it has a real effect on them testosterone wise.
Testosterone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So men eat out of glass. All right. I had a request this week to talk a little bit about the firmament. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the earth is flat today. That might be a discussion for another day. We might touch on the flat earth a little bit as I go through the different theories as to why there may be a firmament. Then we can discuss it and we'll kind of go from there. All right. So, number one reason why there is a firmament. Nearly every ancient culture, Babylonian, Egyptian, Norse, Hebrew, and even the Native American cosmologies depicted the sky as a dome, like structure enclosing the earth. And it's not just in the Bible and Genesis, it's a cross-cultural phenomenon. Why did everyone picture the same thing? I know our current species, or our current life at this time, we're able to have cameras up into space. Now, I will say that who's to know what the picture of the Earth really looks like? Because every single picture you do look like, it doesn't look real. And I think there is evidence, and I think even NASA has admitted, that might be later in this list, to pictures of the Earth being CGI. I was telling you before we hit record on this podcast today that I'm I think it's more likely that the Earth is a globe than it is flat, and I think at least 2/3 more likely to be a globe. And if we want to do real percentages, I would say 65% that's a globe, 15% that it's hollow Earth, only because of Admiral Byrd's story of flying to Antarctica is kind of interesting to me, and in entering that civilization that was like a hole in Antarctica. That's a whole nother podcast. And then maybe that final percentage being flat Earth, only because of maybe the rest of these reasons that we talk about. And I don't fully trust my government, or do I fully trust NASA? NASA was founded by Werner von Braun, who is a Nazi scientist. And again, that's a whole nother conversation. But there is just a lot of really odd things that surround this whole outer space thing. There's this treaty where none of us can really go to Antarctica. If any of us try to go to Antarctica, we're blocked from going there. You have the ice walls. There are some intriguing points to all of this that do make you think. All right, number two, Operation Fishbowl and high altitude nuclear tests. In the 1960s, the U.S. military launched nuclear missiles straight up during Operation Fishbowl. The goal was to study the ionosphere, but some believe that they were testing the limits of something solid. Why name it fishbowl if not to imply that we are in one? What's your thoughts on that? On the first of all, the the United States military has just decided, you know what, let's just shoot some nukes up into the
Nukes
sky
in the
today.
sky. Uh,
Also, if you think about it, was there any consideration for what may have happened if we did, let's say, punch a hole into the fishbowl
like what would happen?
to the earth? Yeah. Let's say it was a fishbowl.
Yeah. Well, it's like it would be also, I mean, somewhat of the same concept too of where like let's I mean, even say if we do have an atmosphere or an hemisphere and stuff, what if it got like damn like just like almost like if it was a fishbowl? What if a big hole was made and now we just like totally just ruined our whole planet?
Yeah, exactly. Just to
Like
try
the whole
to
earth.
blow a hole in the atmosphere.
Yeah. Just because we're like, well, let's see what happens for
Yeah,
science, right?
right. And you know, the other intriguing thing about nuclear is before the first nuclear bomb was ever actually tested, think about the cojones on those people testing that bomb being even within the general vicinity. I know there's that one video of those guys that were on I think it was Navy, maybe they're out on those ships and all those guys got exposed to that radiation from that one of those tests.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact name of it, but I remember watching a video on it. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
All right. This next one, stars appear as luminescent lights in water. Have you seen the images of stars through those cameras, those Nikons before? How they do have kind of
Um,
that shimmer?
the shimmer, yeah.
Yeah, it seems the Nikon P1000 stars don't look like burning balls of gas. They shimmer and they pulse like light through the water. Stars have always fascinated me, and especially after coming back from Costa Rica when you're just laying down in the hammock looking up at the sky and feeling like connecting yourself with this universe. Something about the stars feels incredibly special. Like every star has some sort of meaning behind it. Or what do they say?
Yeah.
Stars are there other galaxies? Is that what the story on stars are?
If I remember right, yes, because if you think about it, our sun is a star.
Okay.
So I could be wrong. Now, obviously, you have all of your different level of stars, like your dwarf stars, and like every star goes through different phases where until its death, until it's basically collapse, and then that whatever galaxy that it was is no longer. Um, I believe because right or because we I'm trying to remember. So us and our planets, are we a solar system or a galaxy? Because it's been a while since I've been in astronomy.
The fact
Because you have
checkers can fact check us, but I
you have
believe we're a
different
solar
levels.
system.
Yep, because you have solar systems which are within a galaxy, and then the galaxy is within the universe. Correct?
Yeah,
Something like
I
that,
think you're
right?
correct. Yeah.
So every star is a part of a solar system,
Hmm.
and which then is a part of a galaxy. Now, if we're wrong, let us know. But I think that from right, that's basically what it is. Because if you think about it, stars, what we're told is because of how much gravity and how much density they have and how much gravity they pull. That's why it creates a solar system, because you have other planets that are planets or other objects that are not as heavy to cause them to orbit, just like the moon orbits us, you know, wherever it may came from. Just like Jupiter has moons that orbits it. You have the planets that have the belts of asteroids, the belts of rocks, or whatever that orbit them. Um, and that's the thing. Yeah, stars are basically uh, the center of solar systems all around the galaxy, and that is one of the most like fascinating things that it's wild. The sky, looking at the sky on a out where you can see the sky fully with no light pollution, and looking at the stars and how they move, seeing shooting stars, seeing the moon. You have the different colors in the moon at different parts of the year. Like we just had with like recently, I think we had the like the red moon,
I got to do that during the Costa Rica trip,
right?
during the
So
ceremonies.
during the ceremony,
Yeah,
so
it was incredible.
it's that is one thing. Like looking up at that, it makes me really question the like basically my existence and what it means within the universe
Yeah,
because of
makes you feel
how
small.
yeah, you feel very small. But then it the other thing too is what the crazy part is if you look into a human being's eye, it's basically a universe.
Yeah,
It's very like it has this almost the same visual as the sky.
that's a great pickup line, Matthew. Look at your eyes; they're like the universe.
Like the universe, but I mean, doesn't that like just make you wonder? It's the same thing
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we were
you're
talking
right.
about when we were walking. Like I like I don't I believe in coincidences to a certain extent. They don't just keep happening for no reason.
Hmm.
Like trees were not put on Earth to produce oxygen and to absorb carbon dioxide and basically create a perfect environment for living creatures and for us because that's exactly what we need to live is oxygen.
Hmm.
And like I don't know, like there's too many coincidences that is like, and then again we're like I don't want to go too far off where now we're rambling off on a whole nother topic, but
Don't
just
worry, I got number 5 in front of me. You keep going.
like that there's some sort of higher power, whatever you want to think that is, if obviously God, and obviously you have to then ask yourself what type of God, because God can be a lot of things. Just because you believe in God doesn't mean like we can technically believe in the same God, but we just have a different visual of him, like we have a different thought of him.
Hmm.
Because to me personally, I like for the longest time I was very agnostic because I was like, I need proof. Like I was, as you when you're young, you're like, I want to see actual proof. Like he needs to come out and say, hey, I created you, I made you. But then as I got older, you become a little bit less arrogant, a little less naive, and you start actually just accepting that. Obviously, that's not a realistic mindset. You got to start now thinking, okay, well, if there was a God, where would there be maybe some answers that would answer that there is, or a higher being? And I think there's a lot around us. There's a lot of them around us.
You have signs in front of you every single day. It's whether or not you choose to notice it.
One, notice it. Yeah.
I I we'll get back onto the firmament thing, but one more thing I'll add to what you're saying about the examples of the universe. My biggest example of the universe that I see is when I see a colony of ants. And ant I hate ants. You do everything you can to keep them out of your house, but those guys, they work so fucking hard and they're
Yep.
so strong and they're resilient as hell.
Yep.
And it's just another example of a civilization. If you think about the movie Bug's Life,
Yep.
you know, it's the what's so funny about the universe and galaxies is it just continues to go on and
Go.
on and on. So you have your next steps of not actual evolution from monkeys to humans, but the evolutions of different species of their progression instead of evolution, I guess the progressions of where they're at. And
Yep.
I think I just read this scientific column that dogs are right now, the current dogs that we have are in a step of evolution as far as something to do with their brain. I didn't read the article,
Really.
but I kind of read the headline of it. And these things continue to evolve and evolve and evolve and adapt to its current surrounding. And that's the universe. Like that's a perfect example of the universe. It's infinite. It never ends. It adapts. It
No.
continues. It goes and it goes. So
And who's to say our universe isn't within another universe?
we could be living on a fucking giant's toe right now for all we know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because like again, your ant example is what then can make you think that.
Yeah. Have you seen the motherboards of those Apple motherboards? How as it zooms in on it,
Yep.
it just
Yeah.
continues
Can
going
use to go.
microscopic.
Yep.
How? Who
Yep. I
built, by
mean,
the way, who built that? And
who
how do
built
you
it? Yeah.
build that in mass in
For
mass to sell to
production.
all of us?
Yep.
Who built that?
But like you think about ants, ants have bacteria that live on them, just like we have bacteria that live on us. So
Yep.
like you can might go microscopic even on the ants, which are ants are already almost like microscopic, especially if you want to see their finer details.
I
But you can
know.
go even more microscopic on that to
Yeah.
then see the bacteria life that's on it.
And that's why humans are on top of the food chain. All
Yeah.
right. Number five. The NASA and the Van Allen belts. NASA admits they can't get past the Van Allen radiation belts safely with humans. But the Apollo mission supposedly did it in the 60s with tinfoil like shielding. Did we lie about space travel, or are we unable to leave this enclosed system? Now, I know you and I, long ago, we had the whole flat Earth debate, and there's debates about going to the moon. Do you
Yep.
personally? I don't think humans have been on the moon. Personally, I don't. Or if they did, it wasn't on TV.
Yeah.
It was done without it actually being recorded, and then the recording was the for the whole Russia Cold War thing, whatever.
Yeah.
My dick's bigger than yours, right? So I personally, I don't think we ever have for that reason. And
Yeah.
if you look at the technology, spacecraft in the '60s, you think you'd send six of your best people, or was it three or six of your best people
Yeah.
like that? It seems in my opinion risky.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was to like I was just saying was to say, hey, haha, Russia, we beat you there,
Yeah.
using German scientists.
Well, I think you're just a Nazi conspiracy theorist.
We can get
I'm
into
just kidding. No, I'm just
conspiracy.
no, I'm joking. Yeah. Well, so what the no, other thing that makes me when you watch some of the footage, the astronauts that were on that mission, when they get questioned about it, it's not a simple like a little laugh and like what makes you think that? It's a I don't want to talk to you or no
Yeah,
comment
right.
or just nothing and walks away.
Yeah,
That if you ask me, that's like almost like you're admitting guilt. Obviously it's not, it's still you're speculating that they're admitting guilt, but at the same time that's not the normal action of someone who's not trying to hide something.
hmm,
If you have nothing to hide, you wouldn't run away. you
right.
would you would just make a simple statement of I mean okay, I get it, you want to try and think that we didn't go, but it's kind of silly. And I'm curious on what makes you think that, like what really makes you think that, because I was there, like I stepped foot there, I like my feet touched the moon and it was like one of the most amazing feelings that ever happened in my life.
Yeah.
But no, it's no comment or nope, just walk away.
They didn't even go to the dark side either.
Yeah. So the other thing too is the ironic part is what at what so when did we get computers?
The U.S.
Yeah, like for
Oh,
public use,
for public use, wasn't it the '80s?
something like that. And then how long was it did it take to live stream?
uh, I don't personally know, but I know it wasn't in the
It
'60s.
wasn't in the 60s, it wasn't in the 80s, it wasn't in the 90s. I don't even
Or
know if it was.
simulcast, right?
Yeah. So that's the other next thing you have to ask yourself is, okay, so we barely just got the technology of television. Like I mean television was around for a little while, but not that long. At the same point where and I guess it was transmitted a little bit differently, whereas what through and what radio, what it would technically be radio, right? Old TVs, when they use antennas, that's radio frequency, right?
I believe so.
Okay, but they somehow live streamed the whole thing. And also, based on our technology at that time, when NASA was talking to the astronauts were responding almost immediately.
Yeah, there was no delay.
There was no delay, which there should have been a delay
Yeah. Right.
based on the time, based on the distance.
And again, the argument could be made, oh, maybe NASA is 70, 80 years ahead of us, but that doesn't mean that every single house in the country that was able to somehow watch it simultaneously had that
Should have
technology.
gotten that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know
So,
there are a lot of weird. weird things behind it, and at the like yeah, I don't know. It is very uh questionable. There's the more you dig into it, I feel like there's a lot more questionable things about it than there is things that really make it look true. Whereas like I feel like you could more easily argue that we obviously have satellites orbiting us in a sense because you can see them in the sky, like you see lights moving. Now I'm sure there's still people that can want to say, well, I mean, it's just a little light that's traveling across our little projector screen that's at the top of our whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, um, I don't know. I feel like there's way more things with the moon landing uh it was left, I don't know, just open ended to where they didn't really cover up their tracks very well.
They weren't expecting at that time for us to have the technology that we have now.
Today with social media and
I
how
mean,
how easy it
how
is to
ex
share
yeah,
information and make it prevalent
yeah,
and then analyze it.
right, right. I mean, they still weren't even good at it when COVID happened and they tried to
Yeah.
control the masses. They still haven't figured it out yet. Which,
Well,
right there's another example of manipulation to the
yeah.
public.
And which like just make a comment, but it could be a whole episode to talk about too. Is which is exact one. I wouldn't say the not like the only reason, but I think it was one of the main reasons why they want to ban TikTok. Like because now, granted, I'm sure there's plenty of other things that are reasons why we don't want TikTok, but at the same time, TikTok, Instagram, especially, and I think maybe Facebook, where you can still share posts, and before it gets taken down, millions of people can save that and download it onto their phone now. And if they want to, they can repost it.
Hmm.
So that makes it very difficult to, and that was like the things where we started getting, it made it, yeah, more eye opening with COVID and everything and what was going on around the world with basically like concentration camps going on in like Australia.
Yeah,
Like
that
not
was
exactly the
crazy.
same, not exactly the same, but at the same time, it is like you're forcing people to live in
We
this
don't
little living space
we don't talk
because
about
they
that
have
enough
COVID.
either. Yeah,
They have COVID. You're
yeah,
forcing them to live there, and they're telling you, I don't want to be here, but you're making them do it anyways. And people are so brainwashed enough to be like, no, it's okay because it's for the better of humanity. Okay, well, if that's the case, like you want me to do devil's advocate, it's the same reason why we need to get criminal immigrants out of the US then.
yeah.
Or
For the
like
better of
so you
humanity.
for the better of humanity. Like I don't know. Like now, granted, I think those are two totally different ones that you can make arguments for, though, because someone being sick with COVID and someone being a criminal and possibly child trafficker or drug trafficker, two totally different things. The
Hmm.
guy is just innocent, where he's got a viral infection that he can't control having, and if he ends up passing along to someone, then so be it. That's been our existence as human beings since the beginning of time
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. But okay, yeah, don't want to go. We're
We
going to go
we
too
don't
much on
talk
that.
about the whole concentration camp thing enough. That shit got serious.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, last part of my firmament speculation slash conspiracy theory slash story time. The Zulu. So the Zulu is a South African tribe. I mentioned to you the Zulu on our walk. You hadn't heard of the Zulu prior, right?
The funny thing is, the only time I've ever heard of Zulu, well, one is because it's the
Sid Meier's Civilization 5.
Sid Meier
Yep.
civilization, and then obviously for the military, like when you're giving like alphabet letters and saying the words, Z is Zulu.
Okay. Overall pretty prominent civilization, maybe one that isn't talked about a whole lot. And there actually might be a reason for that. The Zulu remember the world which was in Africa of being lush green, and the Zulu have an ancient tale of what Earth was like before the moon ever came to the sky. And for Egypt, it was lush and green and water and wet. And there is scientific data behind that Africa 5,000 years ago was basically a jungle. You had the Trans-Saharan Way that, and this was north of this tribe, but the Trans-Saharan Way used to be what connected the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. It also Africa has the largest dry lake in the world. It's actually would be the largest lake in the world if it was had
Yeah.
water in it, which would be Lake Chad. So Africa has a really interesting history of what it used to be compared to what it is now. And I think that could be said for all over the world. Like where we're from, I think was a lot of glaciers, most likely.
Yeah.
All right, so the Zulu moon myth. So the Zulu say that what the world was like before the moon came. According to the Zulu people of South Africa, there was a time when the moon did not exist. Their ancient oral tradition speaks of a world before the moon, before tides, and before time itself was measured the way that we know it today. Their legend says that the moon was brought here, not formed with the earth. One other interesting fact that I presented to you is that the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but is also 400 times from the earth. So when the sun and the moon rotate, the moon can actually cover the sun perfectly. What are the statistical
Yeah.
odds of that? It's slim to none.
Yeah.
And it goes back
Like,
to my little comment about the dark side of the moon is this really some sort of surveillance machine that's up there? And let's say the Van Allen radiation belts are like that defensive
like
mechanism, that iron dome, so to speak, that
stop
Israel
us.
has, or the golden dome that's coming to the United States of America. Um, it that's it seems it could. There's at least I would say a 15% chance that it could be real. All right.
Yeah.
The Zulu elders tell of two brothers, reptilian, Wayne and Mpanku, who were not from Earth. These beings were reptilian, humanoid, possessed by a great power. They came from the stars. They are said to have stolen the moon from a place far away, and then they brought it to Earth, hollowing it out and using it as sort of a vehicle and surveillance station. Once placed in our sky, now this is Zulu stories. Once placed in our sky, it changed everything. Women's menstrual cycles synced with the moon. Weather and tides became more dramatic. Time became trackable. The balance of Earth shifted. Some Zulu elders, like the late Credo Mutwa, a respected shaman and keeper of tribal lore, spoke openly about this. He claimed that the shift in planetary balance gave rise to chaos, agriculture, and civilization, suggesting the moon's arrival marked a controlled reboot of human history. Why does this tie to the firmament theory? If the moon was placed, it implies that intelligent design, not natural cosmic evolution. It suggests the Earth's system is artificial, contained, and monitored, just like firmament theorists argue. Here's the kicker, and I kind of already mentioned this, but this is the way it's written. The sun is 400 times larger than the moon, but it's also 400 times farther away. That's why the eclipses are perfect. So, it again, what are the odds when you have this massive universe that the moon and the sun do line up that perfectly?
Line up.
I think the odds are actually less than if somebody happened to park it there. It's that same thing that we talk about with the pyramids and the way that they're proportioned.
Proportioned and how they're perfectly aligned
Exactly.
with what.
So that's
Um,
my I guess that's my paper or my presentation on the firmament and the Zulu today. What are your
yeah.
thoughts?
Well, I'm like, well, I think the funny thing, at least with like the moon, especially too, is so I think remember I think this is the basic theory that we heard growing up in school. I believe is where a Mars-sized object named Theia or whatever collided with young Earth, sending debris into orbit. Okay, if that's the case, how would a I feel like an object as big as the moon and with the density it has, how would it not? If anything, it would have been the smaller density objects that would have been more likely to orbit the Earth after the fact, not the large one. As soon as something that big were to have inertia and in space, it's going. Like it's going until it hits something or gets pulled into something else's gravity. And so I don't know, like it, like that theory just doesn't make sense to me either, because it's like, okay, if that's the case, like where's the impact of when that hit Earth?
Yeah.
Because we have impacts from asteroids,
Right.
and if that those are not technically, I don't think they would come anywhere close to the size of what this supposedly was. So yeah, and where did it come from?
I think it's
And
odd. I think there's an asteroid that's coming, um, projected in our path in like 2029. That's supposed to be this really large asteroid, one that would end the world essentially. They say,
yeah.
right? How is it that this far along that we haven't? We're apparently flying through space at this high speed, and they say that debris is flying through space all the time, which
All the
also is
time.
which also is fucking wild when you think about it.
Yeah.
Um, but somehow Earth just manages to miss all of it. Is is the moon is the moon is there really, do you think, a moon base where it is somehow deflecting these things from the Earth because humans maybe are harvesting something on Earth for whatever, maybe this other, what do you want to call it? Let's say these reptilian people. Can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but let's say these reptilian people are harvesting, or Earth is just this big zoo
Yeah.
and harvesting gold for this other species. It just seems odd to me. And like you said, there were times where asteroids hit. I mean, there's evidence of one that hit in Mexico where it was apparently the Great Reset. That was the time for the Great Reset. But it's fun to think about,
Yeah.
and
Well, it
seems
is crazy
somewhat
to think,
likely.
like for how big the universe is, and for an asteroid to hit us that big, and then to cause for like the moon to be there, and like the moon is, at least based on what we see too, like again, it's another perf- perfectly sphered object.
Yeah.
It's so like, I'm sorry, but when so it is funny. So obviously this doesn't really compare exactly the same, but when a semi truck, or let's say this, when a car crashes into the back of a semi truck, what happens to it?
It smashes.
It smashes. And that's what I would imagine. And granted, now there's totally two different types of forces being involved here, because obviously an asteroid traveling at whatever crazy light years of speeds or whatever you want to call it, through space, totally different. Not exactly the most accurate analogy, but at the same time, it's like the odds for an asteroid or something broken off like a size of Mars hitting Earth and then causing a piece of Earth or that to fall into the atmosphere of Earth to then become a perfectly sphered sphere,
Hmm.
and then to orbit Earth, and then for Earth to also still keep our perfect shape at the same time. I don't know. It's just, and NASA's like the comment that like NASA says is like the evidence supporting this theory includes the fact that lunar rocks have a similar composition to Earth's mantle, and that simulations have shown such impact could have created the moon. So really, there is no evidence.
No.
Basically, is what you're saying.
What you're
There is
saying is
no
there really
evidence.
is no evidence. They say
No, like there is none. It's still just a theory. and
yeah.
and it is a theory, and that they do say that it's the leading theory, but it is a theory. Nobody technically, it's the giant impact hypothesis. And now a lot of times when people see that, or you learn it in school, they're like, oh, that's how the moon is there, that's why the moon is there, but technically there is no proof that that is why the moon is there.
Right.
But and for reason this made me go on the thought, and just because it's crazy, because you're like, you were saying how crazy it is to think that there's stuff traveling through space all the time and debris and stuff, because from uh obviously collisions throughout the universe, or stars exploding or imploding, whatever. But just imagine this. I think we're just saying the observable universe is incredibly vast. the diameter of the universe is estimated to be 93 billion light years. Right. A, a light year is approximately 5.879 trillion miles.
Wow.
And that's just the diameter. So now you would have to calculate that diameter and then take the calculation for what, not circumference, but for area.
Yeah.
And that's roughly what you would have for the area of the universe. But even then, too, that's also for, I think, an area as in a surface area, too. You're not taking into account that is the universe, it's multidimensional. Like it's not just like left and right that you can go in the universe. You can go up, down, too, technically.
And for anybody that can't comprehend how big 1 trillion is, here's a good example. 1 million seconds ago was like May 23rd. 1 billion seconds ago was 1993. And 1 trillion seconds ago was like 30,000 BC. So that's the difference between a billion and a trillion, is 1993 to 30,000 BC.
Yeah.
So when you say, what was it, 500 trillion?
5.879
Oh,
trillion
5.87.
miles
Okay.
makes
Well,
up
5 trillion.
one light year.
So if you were to equate that to seconds, like I was just using with that math, if you multiply that 30,000 by 5, we're talking 150,000 years ago was 5 trillion seconds ago. That's how big that is.
Yeah.
One theory, have you ever heard Terrence Howard's theory on how the earth was created from the sun?
I don't know. I feel like that name is familiar.
So basically this so Terrence Howard is the actor on Empire, but he was also on Rogan a couple times. He's the genius, 1 times 1 equals 2.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
That his theory is that the sun essentially exploded Earth out, like it was a big, massive um, nuclear explosion. Because the sun has like explosions every
Yeah.
15 or 20 seconds, and what one explosion that came out of the sun was Earth, and that kind of ties to something I saw when AI was first becoming popular. There was a question, what does God look like? And AI drew a picture and it was the sun. And you
Yeah.
can't directly look into the sun. You can't directly look at God, they say.
Yep.
The sun
That's
created
true.
Earth according to that theory. God created Earth. And I'm not saying that God is the sun, but those are two things that kind of tie together when I saw that drawing that AI made. And I'm not saying AI knows what God looks like, because I
Yeah.
I don't think AI does, but it if you do think about it, and if that theory is true, in a way, maybe God is the sun.
Maybe. Like, yeah, like it too. AI is going to give you an answer based on the information that it's allowed to use. So at the same time, it's the same. It's just as accurate as NASA's theory that the
Right.
moon came from an asteroid, because it's basically because with AI, if you think about it, now to a certain extent, when you run certain simulations, you will get an actual answer that is like, if you were to ask AI what is 2 plus 2, it's 4. That technically, I mean, yes, that's correct. Like, and there's no way of arguing around it unless you want to go down the path of arguing, well, that's only because we decided the value of 2, and we decided the value of what uh uh addition is, you know, because if we wouldn't have come to that conclusion, then technically no, 2 plus 2 does not equal 4, if you want to go cuckoo into that. But other things, though, AI is basically just a simulation. It's a simulation, especially when you ask them a question like that. What does God look like? You're basically asking for its thought or its ability to give you an image based on what it's given.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and the sun does create a lot of things.
it does. Well, and then I think the other thing you could argue is the reason maybe why it drew the sun is because if you didn't have the sun, we wouldn't exist.
Exactly.
We wouldn't exist. Like
Right.
we life would not exist. You
Yep.
cannot have life without the sun.
Right.
You just can't. So like, and that is another scary thing is, the day that comes. of when our sun, our star, our solar system goes out just like a light.
Or when the Yellowstone volcano erupts and we're covered in ash for the next
Yeah.
decade.
Yeah, like even our Earth could, because it's gone through different stages throughout its trillions or billions of years that it's existed.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to be just a lava covered rock,
Right.
and then eventually, then mostly water and a big piece of land, and then the land. It's crazy. Our Earth, it's the same thing. Our Earth could do a 180 on us.
Our Earth, I believe, went through all those different processes to give us the resources that we have today.
Yeah,
And we're what they would call in a Goldilocks zone at this time. But there will be a time when we eventually move out of that Goldilocks zone.
yeah.
Nothing
Uh,
lasts forever, right?
no,
No.
no.
So, anything left to add tonight? You want to plug your Twitch stream at all since you're on here?
Apply, yes, yeah. I mean, if you want, yeah. I got a Twitch, X Matty Ice or whatever. Mostly just kind of lately just gaming different things. I play Sea of Thieves, Helldivers 2. It's a wide genre of stuff. Lord of the Rings Online.
You can
Yeah, we
find you on
want to check it
Twitch,
out.
right?
You can find me on Twitch. You can also find me on YouTube as well. I have a YouTube channel. Um, but yeah, it's been stuff. It's something I've been doing for the last like I think about a little over 3 years, just for the fun. Is like I figured if I'm gonna play video games, might as well try to make something out of it. I think I got around, I think 500 followers on Twitch, about a little over 800 subs on YouTube. Um, and I have a decent, like at least like a good anywhere from 7 to 8 regular subscribers on Twitch, which is nice. So,
That's awesome.
but yeah, that's about it. But it's mostly just gaming on there, and gaming and just having good conversation. Usually, a lot of times have buddies that we're playing with, like sometimes Jesse or my buddy Do, or just anybody we're playing something with. Buddy Wesley from the Marine Corps. Uh,
Anybody
good
listening
talks.
that likes watching video games, check it out. I'll put it
Yeah,
I'll put it in the description as well for you. So for now, we'll tune out. We'll have to do this again soon. Thank you so much.
yeah.
All right.